Hi guys, good evening and welcome to another episode of Meet the Fresh. So this is our 15th episode and before we start, I just want to go through some programming notes. Ayan. So this is our 15th episode and then we will have another two that one is on September 5 and then the other one is on September 12. And then after that, we will take a quick break because I need to study for an exam. And I don't want to take it again. Ayan. So, we will be back with Meet the Fresh episodes on, I think, beginning of October. Ayan. So, first, I'd like to welcome everyone. Good night. Good evening pala. Kasi pag good night, parang magpapaalam na. Thank you to the people who are watching right now ng live. If you have any questions, please put your comments, questions, or whatever in the comment section. If you are watching this on Twitter, unfortunately, I don't think we can see your comments. So head on over to the Facebook page of Meet the Fresh or to the YouTube channel ng Meet the Fresh and just put your comments there. So, hindi naman lingid sa kaalaman ninyo that I have a guest tonight. Yes, sabi nga ni Paul Katyang, I have a lot of interesting friends. I do, but somebody else claims them to be his friends. Anyway, hindi naman ako nagpapapigil doon, kinukontak ko pa din sila. So, sa lahat ng friends ko, saka sa lahat ng friends ni Marco, humanda na kayo. Pag hindi na kayo busy, i-guest ko din kayo. Anyway, so I would like to welcome Aldus Santos to tonight's show and thank him for agreeing to come over. Hi, Aldus. Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come to my show. Show ko talaga, di ba? So, naisip ko naman na hindi lang dahil sa friendship kaya ka pumayag. Although, honestly, that's probably 90% of it. Pero, feeling ko kasi na-impress ka talaga dun sa very high production values. So, to all of the friends of Aldus who are catching this for the first time, welcome to the breakout hit of 2020. So, feeling ko lang talaga pagkatas ng 2020, maaalala nyo din yung 2020 dahil sa Meet the Fresh, hindi lang dahil sa COVID-19. Oh, ang ganda ko, di ba? So anyway, please lang, ask your questions in the comments, ayan. And actually, kahit na walang questions, if you, kunyari, want to commend us for the very incisive comments that we're giving, yung discussion namin na masyadong in-depth pagdating sa music. Alam mo na, marami akong alam sa music. So yun, pakilagay na din dyan. Don't be shy to join in the conversation. Anyway, so magsa-start na tayo. I will not delay this any longer. So first of all, I would like to introduce Aldus. So Aldus Santos is one of the actually more consistent, I think, na when it comes to music writing, 'di ba? Tama ba ako? Well, he's also
I hope so.
'Di ba? He's also a practitioner because he has two bands. Band din ba yung pamphleteer? Hindi, sorry ha, pag dalawa lang band ba tawag doon? Sorry,
Well,
ang dami kong alam, 'di ba?
It's a band
Anyway.
now.
Okay.
It's a band now.
Okay. So he has Purple Chickens and he also has Pamphleteer and he writes for a number of publications. Recently, he joined, pero kasi bago lang siyang publication, 'di ba, yung MNE Asia.
Enemy, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Enemy the brand has been around since the 50s. Tapos
yung Asia
yung Asia yung kaka-launch. Australia was like 2 years back or something. Or a year back.
Actually, alam mo, na-surprise ako dyan. May segue, no? Na-surprise ako kasi, di ba, a lot of publications are folding. Although, I think this is primarily online, di ba? Yung MNE Asia. Or may print din sila.
Well, the brand was primarily a print brand. And then, I think Australia's putting out a print version.
Okay.
I don't know about Asia yet. I just write for them. So I'm not maybe to the plans. I hope so because yung nga parang aminin man natin o hindi, there's a certain, parang people see different formats in different ways. So,
Mm.
and print has ewan ko, has more gravitas to some people siguro or
Mm.
more committal, ganyan.
Okay.
I hope.
Oo. Yeah, tsaka ano din kasi 'di ba, iba-iba talaga pag print kasi, well, for one, you get to keep it. As a keepsake, it's a preserved na snapshot of that
Mm.
moment in time. Tsaka may iba siyang
Sobrang.
legitimacy na nabibigay for some reason.
Oh, actually. Well, sobrang hindi naman can of worms level, no? Pero sobrang
Mm.
may mahaba akong string of feelings about that because ano nga no, parang I've been associated largely with online music writing, which
Mm.
is which is beautiful in its own, no, parang the immediacy, uh, the interactiveness, ganyan.
Mm.
But yun nga, parang on the topic of death of these pages dying, parang
Oo.
suddenly if something goes out of print, you can have your hard copy material to look back on, no? Parang a dead site is just a dead site, no?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And you cannot auction them, o 'di ba? Yun talagang iniisip. Hindi kasi alam mo yung at saka ano din yan, biglang ngayon ko lang naisip, may value kasi 'di ba lalo na kunyari yung mga special issues, puwede mo
Mm.
siyang i-bequeath i-bequeath, part siya ng estate mo 'di ba, na puwede mo siyang ipamana. May value siya ha, 'di ba, depende dun sa ano, may so yun nawawala yun kapag online. And actually I remember, a few years back, there was an artist who tried to parang I don't know if the correct term is sue, pero naging issue kasi yan before. Kasi 'di ba, siyempre dati meron kang music collection. So,
Mm.
whether it's the vinyl, CD, tape, or whatever, may value kasi siya not just because of the actual value of the thing, but as a collection. And the
Mm.
person who collected it also adds value to it, 'di ba? So that
Yeah.
whole thing, pwede mo siyang ipamana, pwede mo siyang ibenta, pwede siyang i-donate sa museum, et cetera, et
Mm.
cetera. So
Mm.
yung nag ang naging issue nun kasi 'di ba nag-shift na tayo sa iTunes, ganyan.
Mm.
So supposedly the design of this platform is you just get a license
Mm.
to enjoy or use that music. So
Yeah.
there's this person na ang argument naman niya kay Apple is, no, I'm paying for it. So dapat yung collection ko, yung Apple iTunes collection ko, pwede ko dapat ipamana. Part siya ng estate
Mm.
ko eh.
Mm.
Kasi di ba
Yeah.
sobrang siyang, the way it is right now, it's tied to your account. So
Yeah.
like what happens to all of the things that your account has accumulated when you die.
Right.
So tama naman yung ano ha, yung idea niya na may value yun, so dapat pwede ko siyang ipamana. And I think pumayag yung korte na oo, pwede mo dapat ipamana yung mga iTunes collections mo. So magandang workaround din ng Spotify yung ngayon, since hindi na talaga nila binibili yung discrete unit, ngayon, license na lang to the whole thing, wala ka na talaga ngayong maiiwan, 'di ba? Parang
Correct.
wala ng
No.
value ikaw ipa-pass on if you really think about it.
Right. How do you feel about that as a lawyer?
As a lawyer, well, at least in this case, it's really clear what you're buying. Kasi before talaga, I could say na reasonable yung ano yung conclusion ng isang tao na yes, it's a soft copy but it's mine. Because I bought that eh. So
Mm.
clear yun sa utak ng mga tao eh. Kasi unlike sa Spotify where you need to go to the platform, you need to be online,
Mm.
at saka pag sinisave mo, dun lang talaga sa mismong app na yun. Di ba yung sa MP3s kasi dati, pwede ko talagang i-save locally, pwede ko siyang ilipat-lipat. So, nagkakaroon talaga ng notion na, akin na to.
Mm.
So yun, mas klaro siya ngayon, pero yung whether who wins and who loses out in that framework,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. It's an ongoing thing, no? It's an
Yeah.
ongoing debate to be had.
Oo. So,
Mm.
ayan. So, anyway, o baka sabihin ng mga tao, mas mahaba pa sinabi ko dahil may guest ako. So, anyway, ayan, tatanungin na kita about you. So, in your case kasi, you make music and you also write.
Mm.
And you also like music a lot because you write about music. So,
Mm.
sa'yo, alin yung nauna? Nauna ka bang nahilig dun sa pagsusulat muna o nauna ka munang nahilig sa music?
Uh, well, obviously the listening part muna, no? The fandom part,
Mm.
because writing is something you not. I don't think anyone is born a writer, or at least not a very good one right away, no?
Mm.
Yeah, so obviously I started out as a fan first, and then as a critic, I guess, because just because I turned into a writer somehow, and it's one of the many things that my nonfiction work can cover, no? With some authority, and I use authority very loosely, no, because I'm not technically schooled in music.
Mm.
Um, I just happen to be a very, very close reading kind of consumer of music.
So, do you think you need that to be able to, of course, parang feeling ko pag sinagot mong no or yes, parang binabalage mo yung sarili mo. But do you need to have the technical stuff down or kailangan bang alam mo yun for you to be able to write well about music?
Um, I tell a lot of people this, no, parang a writing job is first and foremost a thinking job,
Mm.
and to be able to talk about something with hopefully with clarity, no,
Mm.
um, and to a certain extent nuance. You have to arm yourself with the language, and by
Mm.
that I don't mean the jargon, no. Parang you have to live the material first, di ba? Parang
Mm.
you can't suddenly decide tomorrow you're a, you're an architecture critic, for instance. Parang, although
Mm.
I like looking at um, architecture, ganun. Pero I don't fancy myself a critic. No, parang more like a casual appreciator. No? Parang
Mm.
that's the line you have to be self-aware of crossing. No, parang do you love something like deeply enough for you to be able to uh, maybe write about ganun. Parang in fact very ano na nga ako, very forgiving na nga ako sa I used to be because I'm also an editor, no. Parang I've edited at least two music websites and like literary stuff before that. Um, pero I find myself more and more forgiving these days about like writing errors, quote unquote, or style matters. Parang I appreciate the thinking behind it more. Ganon. Parang so if I see that you're engaging with the material with extreme like deep passion, I respect that more rather than someone who can knock off
Mm.
a couple of like clever turns of phrase. No? Parang ewan ko, parang uh, yeah, parang it's really an engagement with the art form. Tapos dun sa knowledge part, mm, talagang magkaibang schools of thought yan. No? Parang a lot of people would argue na, oh, ideally, yes. Di ba? Parang you should be, and if that means like taking music courses, parang, ewan ko, parang maybe some people would go to that length, no? Pero ako naman just engage with it responsibly, no? And not very offhand, not very limited to your personal experience, etc. Ganun,
Mm,
very ano lang. Just embrace the material.
mm. So siguro before we proceed further dun sa discussion natin, and well, for my sake as well as for the sake of the people who are watching, can you explain to us or differentiate uh, how you can identify that a piece of writing is music journalism or a piece of writing is music criticism, and should there be a difference, or is one subsumed in the other, or magkaiba talaga sila?
Mm, you mean like knowledge in music and like
Paano ba 'to? Hindi, parang kung yung ginagawa ko, kung nagsusulat ako about music, kailan ko puwedeng sabihin that what I'm doing is music journalism
mm,
versus what I'm doing is music criticism?
interesting. Yeah. Well, it depends on the kind of um siguro in the case of people who are given assignments, it depends on the nature of the assignment siguro. I mean
Mm,
to be really black and white about it. Tap yun, like if an editor throws you an opinion piece on something that happened in the music scene, the of course it will entail some measure of criticism. Pero when you're on the other hand, when you're being asked to cover like an event and just to tell people about what transpired,
mm,
mm, at the very basic level, maybe that's music journalism. Pero of course, there's creative journalism and creative nonfiction and everything. So parang
mm,
that's another topic altogether. Pero I feel what I've been doing all these years is more creative nonfiction. Parang for lack of a better. Kasi parang feeling ko aspirational yung ano eh, parang music journalism. I've always looked up to music journalists. Parang
mm,
I don't treat the hindi naman sacred levels, no? Pero parang I always treat it as a vocation. Parang it's
mm,
thankless. It's not uh, financially rewarding typically.
mm,
Um, um, it it maybe facilitates you making more enemies than friends, etc. Uh, ayun, very ano siya, hindi naman siya sad life. In fact, very ano nga siya, 'di ba? Parang you're forced to, hindi naman forced, parang um you're thrown into that world, you cover shows, you talk to
mm,
interesting people, etc. So, yeah, it's a very thin line, I think, yung music journalism and music criticism. Pero ako, at hindi ako nagfi-fish, parang feeling ko I'd avoid calling myself the latter siguro. Parang
mm,
siguro actually, I'm a creative writer covering music, parang ganun. So that's
mm,
as a form of nonfiction, I guess.
mm. So in the Philippines, um, siyempre matagal mo na 'tong ginagawa, 'di ba?
Mm.
You've been doing this, I guess, since the late 90s, tama ba yung hula
Yes,
ko,
yes,
'di
yes.
ba? So
Actually, 1999 if I remember correctly.
so marami ng changes 'cause I
Mm.
mean, that's more than a decade. So marami na
Mm.
siyang changes. Um, how do you see music journalism faring now? Kasi I also mentioned this in relation to yun nga, 'di ba, kasi may bago yung AME, meron siyang bago sa Asia. So,
Mm.
ang tingin ko kasi dun is parang it's a sign of optimism for the
Mm.
region
Mm.
and for the, if you can call it, industry in the
Mm.
region, that 'di ba, kasi in the midst of a lot of publications closing, they're actually
Mm.
looking into going into more markets.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
when it comes to the Philippines naman, what how do you see music journalism faring, and how do you see yung music journalism being done in the Philippines compared to being done elsewhere?
Mm. Um, siguro, sige, I'll loosen up. I know I get stiff. Siguro on the subject of the available platforms to
Mm,
music writers, parang the tragedy is that um music only platforms or websites, etc., have have very short shelf lives, no?
mm,
At least by experience, and also by experience, meaning my own and my peers.
mm,
So for instance, the site I used to edit, Pinoy Tuner,
mm,
is gone, and another site I used to edit, Pulse.ph, is gone, and our friends from Radio Republic, and the medyo short-lived Billboard Philippines, which is another like global brand that um, made the local office, I guess, set up a local office. Um, so as per yung nga, music only platform, sobrang ikli ng shelf life. The pivot that's happening now, I think, is wala. Actually, it's not a pivot at all. Parang the thing that happens now is it just sisingit siya sa culture pages ng dailies, yung online version ng mga dailies. So, for instance, there's a culture section, not even a music section, like a culture section, for instance, for the Philippine Star or Inquirer, etc. So you compete for space along with the film people and the theater people, ganon. So yung the focus on music journalism per se, it's not um, the support is not very very visible in terms of dami ng lugar na dami ng I guess kunari dami ng sumusugal like
mm,
investors and whatnot.
mm,
Um, the brave ones are really the young the young writers and website owners, no. And this is my segue, of course, into promoting one site I write for, like the Rest is Noise, no, the wonderful people behind the Rest is Noise,
mm,
MC Galang and Ian Urrutia. Yeah, they've been at it not for a very long time, pero they produce live shows, and they put up music criticism on a regular basis. So
mm,
yung tapang will always be there, and the desire, parang the
mm,
sustainability is another discussion altogether. So
mm,
yun yung eksenang yun yung eksena sa Pilipinas. Sa labas, mas vibrant, obviously, like the American websites are, I don't know how they're faring, like financially, no, pero there's a lot of them, no, Consequence of Sound, Pitchfork, etc., no.
mm,
um, I don't know if Stereogum is still around. Basta there's no lack at all. Yung Pinoy eksena is like a large arena of like small bloggers and small self-publishers,
mm,
which is an admirable talaga for me, um, arena to be in, kasi siya losing battle talaga siya eh. So
mm,
I always tip my hat to those guys, because once upon a time I dreamt of putting up my own, no? Parang it's just too much headache administratively,
yeah.
like to have people under you and such.
Oo. So alam
So
mo,
yun.
it just occurred to me now ha, factor din kaya yung kasi sa tingin ko ha, at sa tingin ko tama din ako, hindi kasi mahilig magbasa karamihan ng mga Pilipino. So is that a factor na, totoo 'di ba, hindi mahilig magbasa
Hindi
ang
ko alam
maraming
eh.
Pilipino?
Hindi ko alam. Parang
Feeling ko sa
that's
circle lang natin eh. Ewan ko ha, kasi 'di ba 'pag
mm,
sa ibang bansa sumakay ka sa train, sumakay
mm,
ka sa public transportation, madalas kang makakakita ng mga taong nagbabasa ng libro. Although
mm.
to be fair to them, medyo mahirap magbasa ng libro sa bus sa Pilipinas.
Totoo, totoo,
But
totoo.
anyway, pero kahit naman nung maluwag pa yung MRT medyo hindi gano'n kadalas yung makikita ko na may makasabay ka na nagbabasa ng libro. So, anyway,
Pinaka-okay na magbasa sa bus. Sa MRT,
oo,
medyo haggard magbasa sa
oo.
MRT.
Kasi inisip ko lang yun, kasi kung hindi din mahilig magbasa yung mga Pilipino, then maybe, kaya hindi din ganun karami, yung talagang nagta-thrive na publications. Tapos sa-segue ko yan ng,
Mm.
kasi di ba ngayon, marami dun sa mga dating vloggers, lumilipat na at nagiging vlogger.
Mm.
Pero ganun din, I mean, they still discuss the things that they wrote about before, pero ngayon in video.
Mm.
So, sa tingin mo ba, is it possible na magkaroon ng ganung transition when it comes to music journalism? Like,
Um,
vlogger on music?
Mas ano siguro, parang nakikita ko podcasts. No,
Mm-mm.
I have a couple of friends doing podcasts. No?
Mm-mm.
Carl Demeso is a really good music critic himself, and
Mm-mm.
um, another Carl with a CC, Carl Javier naman, Carl Javier. He's doing podcasts. I think he's doing more news stuff now, newsy stuff. But
Mm-mm.
we talked a while back, and he's trying to do like a creatives show, no, na with the heavy focus on music. So I think that I think for more serious writers like the friends I mentioned, that entire scene, no, parang maybe not, maybe vlogging is not the way to go. Maybe the more appropriate transposition is podcasts, because it's more conducive to long
Okay.
form thinking, no, parang not, I don't see these things as long form content. I see them as long form um engagement and long form thinking. Alam mo yun, parang lagi akong dun sa creator side nag-iisip parang I don't see them as oh shucks, patuloy mo yan tig 7 minutes kasi nakakatamad yan.
Oo.
Like Carl was kind enough to Demesa was to differentiate the two Carls. I'll just call Demesa Spooky. That's what I call him as a joke, because he's also a writer of the horror genre, and maybe he'll hate me for saying I don't know. He was kind enough to guest me on his newish podcast, no, like 2 months ago, because I was promoting something, the then new Pamphleteer album, and sabi ko bala ka na mag-edit, ganyan ganyan ganyan, and turned out the guy hardly edited the thing, no, because it was, maybe he enjoyed the long form or ano. Ayun, parang that's something we have to contend with on a regular basis now. Yung aversion to long form, hindi na siya uso. Hindi na siya uso talaga mag long form. Parang you'd rather hear about something dismissive on Twitter, or something casually affirmative on Twitter, na parang ay ox to, pakinggan yung ganyan. Oh, so
Pero yung podcast, I think it really lends itself to long form kasi usually like ako, pag nakikinig ako ng podcast, it's me doing something else and then in tandem with listening to the podcast. So kunyari, magpa-plancha ka, ayan, 'di ba? Kasi your eyes have to be somewhere else. Or maglilinis ng bahay, tapos nakikinig ka ng podcast. Ano siya, nakakatulong din siya actually sa consumption ng libro for me now kasi yun, I can do it and I can read. Parang gano'n. But anyway, before we proceed with other questions, syempre uunahin ko yung tanong ni Grace. Kasi gusto ko din yung tanong niya. So, how do you feel about OPM?
This always gets said like at any time you ask it, and it's vibrant. It's always been vibrant. Parang, and in fact that vibrance is more felt because parang, I mean, we've had the internet for a while, and we've had, well, not just the internet but specifically Web 2.0, which is social media. We've had that for a while. So now this huge echo chamber is di ba, parang more immediate, no, manandyan. Sobrang hindi lang siya vibrant, mas ramdam mo rin yung vibrance, gets mo? Parang dati kasi pre pre social media. I mean, we had the internet and everything, pero like pre social media, you'll just have to take other people's words for it. A word for
Oo,
it.
oo.
Oh, ngayon mas yeah, buhay siya tapos dahil alam mo na, parang everyone is a qualified creator of content, and they can be their own distributor. The avenues to distribute, as opposed to manufacture, has been very widely available. So ano rin, there's no shortage in short, no, there's no shortage of material. Lagi naman ganun, pero ngayon mas ramdam mo na marami. So yeah,
Pero alam mo
I
yun,
feel good.
since nag-iba rin yung distribution, nakikita mo pa ba yung point ng albums?
Ayan, sabi na eh. I was just, oo. Um, sabi nila, the way to go about it is to do like 2 songs at a time or even 1 song at a
Mm,
time.
mm.
Make like tiny
Oo.
artworks to promote them, like each single as an artwork, like you're promote.
Mm,
Hindi naman yan bago, no? Parang
mm.
I mean our parents bought 7-inch vinyl, no? Which
Yeah.
singles, no? So
Mm,
there's 2 songs and 1 on each side, etc. It's sort of like that now, except may disposability factor, no? Dahil parang it's popular for 3 days, 5 days, maybe 2
mm,
weeks.
mm.
Even for really popular people, I'm talking whatever, name people. The shelf life is much shorter because the avenues are way opener and way
Mm.
more available
Oo.
to everyone. So, pero yung albums, I was just talking to the Itchy Worms guys about that dahil I did a story on them for NME last week. They were glad to be asked to. They were glad slash surprised that the record label, one that they're returning to after ma-revive, no, Sony, asked for a full album rather than
Hmm.
singles. And at a time like this, pa. So parang they were, I don't know, I don't want to put words into their mouth. Parang they looked like because we talked on video, no. Hindi lang ako nag-email ng questions or whatever.
Mm.
They looked like they were a bit flattered, in fact, no, parang, which is a sweet thing to witness, no. They were flattered to be asked to do a full album because there's a certain discipline to long form creation like that, eh. So parang
Mm.
for writers, it's maybe a collection of essays or a collection of short stories or a novel. For music artists, that's really at best like a longish EP, no,
Mm.
or ideally a full record. And
Mm.
ibang disiplina yun, eh. And yun, parang I feel it's I feel it's poised to stay naman
Mm.
that format. Parang it will always have its fans, no.
Oo. Pero siguro depende sa artist, no? Kasi I mean, Itchy Worms kasi, iba naman sila maglabas ng albums. It's not just a collection of anything. 'Di ba? Meron silang, mas
Tema.
cohesive yung kanilang
Mm.
album kesa sa iba. Let's just put it that way. Pero, anyway, pero as a consumer, ako lang, ang sigurong maganda lang for me dun sa fact na, hindi maganda. Ang naiinis lang ako dati dun sa albums is yung scam ng, alam mo yung pag bumili ka, tas dahil fan na fan ka, bibili ka nung unang labas.
Tapos,
Tapos
yeah.
biglang after, kasi kayong mga naunang fans, feeling ko, kayo yung nagbuno para siya tumaas dun sa ranking.
Correct.
Whatever. Yan.
Tapos
Tapos
magkaka-special edition.
I know, right? Tapos may isang bagong kanta na parang ni-reward nila yung mga
Newcomers. Latecomers.
okay lang naman kung newcomer ka eh, pero kung bandwagon ka lang, like, Kasi diba, parang, oh my God, sino yung, diba, nire-reward yung mga, yun lang. I just had to put it out there. Guys, that sucks. Don't do that. Anyway. Tapos ngayon, ang mangyayari, dahil nga sa fan na fan ka, maobliga kang bumili ng dalawa.
Oh, why not? Kung completist ka halos. I mean lalo. Ako
Pero para kasi ano yun
medyo
eh.
completist ako to a fault eh. And my wife knows it. It's a sickness.
Pero alam mo, mas scam yun dati. Kasi dati, mahal dati yung CD. Mag-iipon ka ng matagal para ka makabili ng
Oo.
CD. So
Lalo
parang,
pag imported, no? Lalo pag imported.
unfair talaga. Oh, unfair talaga yun sa mga fans. Can you just say that? Anyway. Ay, nako.
Pero yeah, so I mean on the topic of music writing and like vis-a-vis the album format, parang there's really actually ang interesting point diyan ay medyo symbiotic yan eh. Parang medyo bagong thing tong you cover a song. Di ibig sabihin there's coverage on a song being put out. Parang it's like talking about a scene in a movie. Parang, hey, that scene is out now. Let's watch it. Para bang, ewan ko, parang I don't want to sound like too much of an old guy or whatever. Pero, now I can't say I embrace it. Now I do it. Not a lot, pero when I get asked to do it, parang I don't mind, especially if it's good material worth writing about. Pero ang weird pa. Pero yung buong myth or buong legend, if you will, of like high-minded music writing has always coexisted with the great albums, no? The great sprawling albums of the 70s, ganyan. Doon din, nung 70s din kasi umusbong yung seryosong music writing, no? And walang contest ng scoop. Parang ganun. Parang these writers were the equivalent of slow food. Alam mo yun? Parang they churned out the textual equivalent of slow food. Which means, for instance, the piece
yung pinabasa mo sa akin.
Yeah. The piece I shared with you last night is Lester Bangs on Van Morrison's Astral Weeks.
Yeah.
Which is arguably the agreed upon parang yun yung Sgt. Pepper ni Van Morrison, yung Astral Weeks. Lester Bangs wrote about it 10 years after. Parang he had to live it first, no? Parang walang, oh shit, it's out. I should write about it 2 days from now or even tonight. Ganun. Parang how can you even form a relationship with the record?
Yeah.
If you're chasing a scoop, no? Parang, at hindi ako magpapaka-plastic, parang yan, may tug of war sa akin sa loob ko dyan. Parang, of course, you want to, I mean, I've never treated this as a contest anyway. Parang it's a small community and now I'm working with a lot of people I used to be on the other side of the fence from. Yun nga, parang kunwari ngayon si Edwin Salyan, we've been talking a lot. He writes for Business Mirror. He used to write for Jingle. Parang wala lang, talagang we'll end up chatting somehow and like sharing notes, etc. Now he's also contributing for NME. No? Anyway, the point I was making is about albums, no? and like these sprawling albums of great import. Ganyan, no? So Lester Bangs took 10 years to muster the courage, and that this guy doesn't need much mustering, no? Medyo talagang full of bluster at no? Confidence, bigger, larger than life figure, Lester Bangs. Pero wala. He lived it, he enjoyed it. And then he wrote about it a decade after. Ganun. Parang, and there's tons of others, no? Parang I'm happy nga when people engage with albums now in a very, very personal way, which is another topic altogether. That maybe we'll get into that later.
Mm.
Yung how to approach criticism. When they engage with something wholeheartedly talaga, no, the way kunwari the writer Rob Sheffield, who's a writer for Rolling Stone, engages with, he's on the Beatles beat. So
Mm.
anything Beatles related, he gets the assignment.
Mm.
It's a dead band. It's been dead for since 1970.
Mm.
So that's how many years. Anyway, um, 50. Um, but also, dahil past tense na yun eh. I find him, and this guy is around, I'm guessing late 40s, or
Mm.
maybe, yeah, thereabouts. Now he's engaging with no irony whatsoever. Not that there's any need for it. With two specific people he's super in love with, no? Taylor Swift and Harry Styles.
Okay.
And Taylor Swift is like um basta hindi siya typical na i-cover ng someone like Rob Sheffield. He used to like Duran Duran and those people,
Oo.
and more artsy stuff like Radiohead. But now he's engaging wholeheartedly with the material, not just because he got assigned to them, no, pero he's really dogging these people. Yung talagang to the point siguro na talagang nakuha na niya yung beat, or you're on the Harry Styles beat, you're on the Taylor Swift beat, ganun. Which is something admirable actually. Parang ako medyo defensive ako at the same time self-aware that I tend to cover certain people repeatedly. It's
Mm.
because parang I feel it's an act of scholarship on those subjects.
Mm.
No? So if you see me talking to Ellie Buendia at least once a year, for instance,
Mm.
parang it's because I want to, no? Parang it's my little contribution to the scholarship on him,
Oo.
no? Parang not to mention we're friends, no, I guess. Um, pero yun, beside the point. Parang it's not like we chat about personal stuff anyway. Parang it's always self-contained discussions on music
Yeah.
and the music life. So okay din siya. Okay din siya yung to be, they're really little devotions. They're really small devotions. These pieces we churn out, no.
Mm.
So if I put out something like, I was telling Grace nga, my wife, yesterday, Enemy put out the first assignment I got, but not the first byline that I got, because um, the first byline I got was on Tarshos, and then the Itchy Worms. Tapos finally, yung first na na-assign sa akin ay come out yesterday, and it was on Ellie nga.
Mm.
And and the discussion of his revisiting of the old Eraserheads albums, no, remastering them, etc.
Yeah.
Remixing them for vinyl. Remastering them for vinyl. As opposed to like this morning, I put out a story naman on The Rest Is Noise about a wonderful alt rock band from Cagayan de Oro named Analog. Tapos parang, to me, those are two different sorts of devotion, but they're both forms of devotion.
Oo.
Parang the Ellie thing was more my contribution to the scholarship on him, and of course because of his stature, parang there's really, I'm guessing or slash hoping, there's really like a living breathing attempt of like scholarly to amass scholarly knowledge on him, or create scholarly knowledge on him. Tapos this morning parang yun nga, parang I was super happy nga to parang study in contrast siya. Parang it's not a small versus big thing eh. Parang I was telling Grace with pride nga na parang, see, if you read this, parang I put as much heart into that.
Mm.
Parang
So
ganun.
ayan, magandang segue yan for Mikey's question, which is, what can you say about Manila centrism on of the Philippine music scene?
Sabi ko lang. Ah, well, siguro ganun yun din yung parang pakiramdam, Mike's, dahil nandito tayo, I guess. Pero I'm sure pag nasa Cebu ka, you'll feel differently. Parang ganun. But um I hate to say it this way, pero ano parang we have to try harder with the gatekeeping stuff Alam mo yun? Parang I ibig sabihin parang if you associate good stuff with kunare, oh, so and so approved of it and he writes for so and so. Parang I'd hate to be the guy who enables that kind of thinking.
Mm.
Parang parang just because as you're associated with certain things, no, or certain people or certain publications, whatever. Yung math, alam ko medyo cop out to mics, no. Parang on the one hand, it's a matter of perspective thing. That's the cop out answer. Pero on the other hand, it's also a matter of let's try and pitch in. And by us, I mean players in the industry, ganun, not just artists, but also promoters, show promoters, for instance. Parang maybe set aside some, money for plane fare for acts that are really good from Iloilo or Cebu or whatever, no. Um, not and they wouldn't even be taking a chance anyway, no, on them because they're proven names
Yeah.
in those places, parang ganun, no. So parang it's just a matter of shattering these myths of gatekeepers, no.
Yeah.
Yun. Sobra akong ilag dyan because as you age and you amass some ano ba cultural slash social capital of a certain degree. Medyo euphemism yan, I know. Pero ibig sabihin, may self awareness din na parang, okay, I'm a 40-year-old guy and I played with these people and I've had my byline published in such and such. Ganyan. Self-aware naman ako doon. Pero also combative din ako sa ganong thinking. No? Oh, pero basta another one of those push and pull things, no. Yeah. Pero yun nga, may ang laki ng self-awareness, Cecily, yung parang may self-awareness din ng your byline as a brand, parang he wouldn't really typically touch that kind of thing or parang ganun. Parang these are things you can't help. Parang ganun. Parang hindi ko alam kung merong lawyering equivalent doon. Cecil wouldn't take up cases like this. Not and I don't mean specialization.
Yeah.
Yung ano rin like the camps you take, 'di ba? The sides you take.
Siguro at saka siguro kung kunyari corrupt politician tapos may bakit niya pinagtatanggol yan? I don't know. Or
Yes.
na lang, siguro si Harry Roque, 'di ba? Kasi kilala naman siya before as human rights lawyer. So nung naging spokesperson siya ni Duterte, people were surprised. I guess ganun yun na parang may preconceived notion yung mga tao na he wouldn't do this and then ayun. But anyway,
yeah.
So aside yung you mentioned 'di ba, in relation to Manila-centric music scene and the cost. So sinasabi mo nga 'di ba na it's also important for Manila-based producers to hindi take a chance but to invest in bands from elsewhere. So ngayon na we cannot really go out and a lot of people are thinking of ways to still continue doing gigs or performing online, yung reasoning about the cost, mas lalong hindi siya valid now, di ba?
Correct.
Parang mas madali na kasi dapat eh. And actually, yung kinaganda din nun is that it's not even just you catering to the Manila market, pero since ang daming OFW naman din sa buong mundo, 'di ba? Parang market mo din sila. Tapos since Facebook naman, it's viewed all over and really the audience is really there. Like kunyari ako, ayoko naman talaga ng Facebook, pero hello, 'di ba? Huwag na tayong magmaganda. Nandito na yung mga tao eh. So anyway, which is my very roundabout way of saying na oo nga, may point ka.
Di ba?
Anyway,
pero yun nga, parang iba yung iba nga ngayon eh. Parang so to go back to your question, Mikey, I I don't think that kind of thing. Of course, it's persistent, no. Pero I don't think that's still a force to be reckoned with. Yung Manila. Alam mo yan, it's more like because ano nga parang, and of course I'm not the first person saying this. It's democratized na eh.
Yeah.
So if you I can't even say if you work hard because it's not a guarantee. So parang I'm just saying parang anyone from anywhere can get lucky maybe with hard work or without. Parang ganun, whether they sound good or not, ganun. So yeah, so which is a win-win situation, no? Parang there's more to love and more to hate, ganun, from all over the country and the world.
Ayan. So, may question din si Zig. Sabi niya, how do you feel about the apparent lack of objective criticism in a lot of local music coverage? Ayan, di ba? Kasama din yan dun sa tanong
Hmm.
ko sa'yo kanina. Kasi, oftentimes nga dito sa writing in about the Philippine music scene, di ba? Since
Mm.
parang siya, trial by jury of your peers. Kasi kayo, marami dun sa mga nagsusulat are also
Kami-kami.
performing. So,
Mm.
diba, sabi ko nga sa'yo, kunyari, ikaw, like, you're the perpetrator, you're also a prosecutor, you're also a judge. Diba? So, yun, kasama din dun na, sige, una sa lahat, yun nga, actually, apparent lack, meron nga bang lack of objective criticism? And
Mm.
then, ikaw personally, the way that you write or you approach any story, meron bang, or do you notice yourself pulling punches? Because you don't
Mm.
want to offend, or because it will be awkward because you're gonna see these people so many
Parang
times more in the future. Parang ganun.
parang non-issue siya sa akin actually because pero hindi, to first and foremost to answer Zygmunt, no?
Mm.
Um, hindi naman lack. Parang if you put things in context nga, parang kunwari what the nature of the assignment is or the nature of the piece is. Parang alam naman natin kung ano yung press release because it's being something's being put out tomorrow or something or later this evening, whatever. May mga ganun na, may mga countdown, so merong press release yan. Usually walang tagline yung press release, so we can discern that easily. As opposed to, as meron ding personality profile. So like I chat with someone and I tell you guys about what we talked about. Parang ganun. And um, pero always with an angle. Parang that's the thing I'm proud of in my work. No? Parang I don't think I'm a particularly good writer. Parang I just feel I have an angle on each story. So Zig, feeling ko ano siya, depende sa nature ng assignment. Pero that said, parang kapag obviously it's a review, no? Like it says review. It's under the review section. Ganun. Doon natin masasabi kung ano nga, kung may lack of objective criticism. And I don't think there's a lack, no? Parang siguro depends where we're looking din. Pero ako, obviously I read my friends, meaning my fellow music writers, and I read writers from abroad, ganun. Kasi mas marami sila eh. So parang if I wanna learn about the new Big Red Machine project, which is like Bon Iver and Aaron Dessner from the National, like playing with Michael Stipe and doing music for Taylor Swift. Parang malamang sila yung babasahin ko. Ano. Parang so malamang may piyesa doon, maraming piyesa before it came out na it's all guesswork and it's all historicizing, etc., etc. And after a while, parang if you see a piece in the review section and it's still non-committal pap being written, edi yun talagang hindi ano yun, parang that's really saying nothing, no? Parang if you're given the opportunity and you still don't take it, meaning to be truly critical. Which, by the way, I don't equate with being an asshole. Parang I always tend to be, and I know it's a weakness, I always tend to be on the euphemistic side of things, no? Parang kasi nga, ang pinaka-Achilles heel ko, Cecil, I'm a fellow creator as well, no? May acknowledgement din ako nung paradox na yun. Na I'm actually, arguably, I'm the worst guy to read maybe, no? Parang, alam mo yun, parang, kumbaga sa witness stand, parang if I'm gonna talk legal metaphors, parang I'm really a compromised witness. Ganun. Parang madali akong ma-cross-examine. Pababayin na yun, wala tayong makikita dyan. Ganun. Pero, ayun, parang, siguro, that's maybe why I'm still doing it. Parang I'm trying to say new things pa rin, or say old things in a different way. Ganun. And I'm always, tapos always with parang nakatali lagi sa pagiging fellow creator ko. And by the way, I don't relate with yung binibigay mo. I know you were just kidding, yung example na awkward sa gigs, etc.
Okay,
Because we don't hang out anyway at shows.
Well, totoo din naman kayo. Umuwi kayo agad eh.
Hindi, or we stay, some of us stay till very late, pero like in a little bubble. Like with...
So, nauna kayo sa social distancing. You were ahead of the time.
Ayun. So just for the record, I'm acknowledging the compromised nature of my profile. My profile. That's just my makeup eh. Kaso wala eh. Parang I really do this as well eh. And this is also parang this is also if I may say so myself, this can also be a strength. It is maybe a strength, no? Parang, so I'm talking about people like Jason Cabalya, Joey Dizon, who are both great musicians, no? Doing music coverage, no? Like Joey Dizon did it for a long time. He was my editor. I was a freelancer. And then I was edited by Jason. Tawag dito. And the thing with those guys is, in fact, baliktad pa nga eh. Parang sometimes, all of us, at least the three of us, we get super defensive about that compromised nature of our personality, that we even say worse things, parang ganun.
So parang to appear independent or objective.
Hindi naman to appear. Parang more like to... Pero baka nga yung tama, no? Baka tama yung to appear. Para, just so we're clear. Alam mo yun? Just so we're clear. I don't care how this guy feels after. Alam mo yun? After I put this out. Tapos syempre those two guys are guys I initially dealt with on print, no? So parang iba rin yung dynamic nun. So they'll say something awful and then you wait 2 months to read it. So parang it's not like ganun. So iba. Pero yun nga, parang, but also because there are people covering music, apart from their personalities na voracious consumers sila of music, because they created too, may ibang rin siya, may extra ka lang tool dun sa sa utility belt mo, kumbaga. Parang they have the language for it, ganun, parang they have the experience, to cut it short. So they have the language, they have the experience, and the insight na parang, they probably mixed it this way, or this is obviously pitch corrected, etc.
Tsaka siguro mas magkakaroon ka ng appreciation kasi kunyari alam mo yung mga iba na ito mahirap gawin to. Itong na-achieve nila na to. Mahirap to go. Kasi 'di ba kung kunyari sa akin, hindi naman ako marunong. It's just one of those sounds that I hear. Pero yung kasi pag nag-usap kami ni Marco, minsan sinasabi niya, hindi yan, mahirap gawin yan. Yung ganun. Which is something that other people will not know, diba? So I guess that increases also your appreciation. Not just for the product, but the artistry that went into creating that product.
Right.
Yeah. So having said that, what's a good song?
What's a good song?
Oh. Para sa'yo? Ano yung para magandahan ka?
Well, ito nga parang ito medyo bibigyan din kita ng roundabout answer. No? Parang ang the small embarrassment I have with the kind of writing that I do, meaning hindi pala kind of writing, the beat that I cover, which is music, is my small embarrassment about it is everyone knows music. So parang which makes the necessity for criticism very, very low, no? Parang as opposed to something like film criticism, no? And the people who practice it, like our friend Richard Bulisay and Dodo Daya and those people, no? Parang feeling ko ibang level ng scholarship yung involved sa ganun. Parang and the intricacies of the making of the material. And in the case of Dodo, he's also a filmmaker. Tawag dito. Or as opposed to something like theater, ganun, parang you can't just pretend to be a theater critic, parang ganun. So parang may parang long history of ibig sabihin parang it's not something you can casually pull off, no, those areas. But people like songs, people like pop songs. They hear it on their grab ride. They hear it on the bus, walking on the street, etc., etc. And they have very, very immediate opinions about it. No, parang pangit naman yan. Ay naman, auto-tune na naman, blah blah. So parang you really can't hindi naman school, pero you really can't prescribe stuff to people on a subject matter that people don't want your opinions on.
Okay.
Parang gano'n, parang gets ba what I'm driving?
Yeah.
Parang it's just like liking pie, alam mo 'yun, parang oh, do you like the pie that Cecil makes, ganun.
Or do you like pineapple on your pizza?
No, ganyan, no? Parang immediate answers tayo dyan, ano? Parang as opposed to parang, oh, I didn't really like the sugar-free musical. Why not? What aspect of? Parang ganun. Alam mo yan? Parang it's not something you can...
Basta is it the same as, I mean, liking a song, is it the same as this is a good song? Alam mo yun? Parang...
iba yun.
Kasi di ba may konsepto tayo ng guilty pleasure. So, ang iniisip ko kasi dun sa guilty pleasures, meron kang recognition na hindi siya okay. Pero gusto ko pa rin siya. So, which means na merong hindi objectively. Meron tayo kahit pa paanong idea ng kung ano yung good. Diba? Kasi para kang maging defensive dun sa something that you like. To be able to call it guilty pleasure. Parang ganun.
Yeah. So, well, obviously, there are two different things. No? Parang, I like a lot of things that I think qualifies as bad. Parang ganun.
So anyway, but it's me also saying ng, like, kasi kami, yung, yes, I have very immediate opinions about songs, but it doesn't necessarily put it on the same level as what you do, di ba? Pretend lang ako. Alam mo yun?
Maybe we can
sinasabi mo, parang yung sinasabi mo is,
yung let's put it this way. Parang if lalo ngayon kasi hindi mo nabibilin yung kanta Isa Spotify mo lang So parang before, mas may necessity pa. Parang, kunwari, if I hear a CD in advance, which used to be the case in, like, I don't know, 15 years ago. Something. or when I was writing in the early 2000s. So, tama, no? Well, more than 15 years ago. In the early 2000s to mid 2000s, parang I'd get CDs, unsolicited from record labels. And I wasn't even, I was just contributing for several publications, pero regularly.
Mm-mm.
So, like, my relationship with sila Joey, Dizon, etc. was as a freelancer, no? And they were very generous with their with like with their space, no? I don't ang tawag dito. Before, so we get advanced copies of things. Parang then kids want to know if something is good enough to buy, to spend money on. And then maybe your word has more weight because it's being used to inform a purchase decision.
Mm-mm.
Now it's not like people need guidance to inform their clicking decision, di ba?
Yeah, sa bagay.
Or their streaming decision. Parang there's tragically less at stake. Parang
Yeah.
ganun.
And it's also
Mm.
in relation to what you said earlier about the need to form a relationship with the music. Kasi since I can just stream it,
Mm.
hindi mo kailangan ng relationship kasi hindi siya mahal. Alam mo yun, iba
Mm.
kasi yung mag-iipon kang 425 sa baon mo para makabili. Tapos parang mas malaki yung impetus na gusto ko dapat lahat ng kanta dito ha. Kasi mahal
Oo.
siya, parang ganun.
Correct. Or yung dati sa Music One may mga CD changers na, di ba?
Oo.
Number one, Sandwich, 4-track mind, ganyan. Number two,
Pero
Search.
hindi mararamdaman ng mga bagets ngayon yung joy ng makabili ka ng magandang CD sa bargain bin ng 100
Mm.
pesos lang.
Or
Hindi
less.
nila mararamdaman yun. Di ba ang saya-saya nun?
Oo naman. Yung may kaya mong sumugal on a discovery. Ngayon nga dahil nga, yun nga, they're free to roam around freely. Parang it's really a candy shop with no guards at the gate. Parang there's less and less use for criticism. As like a marketing thing. Parang ganun. So parang, and maybe I'm subconsciously aware of that lack of need. That's why I appreciate doing more and more feature stories, meaning like conversations with people rather than reviews of what they make. Parang syempre in the process I also end up talking about my thoughts on what they make, no? And how I feel about the quality they're in. No? Pero siguro nga dahil feeling ko less and less yung weight, I'm finding more creative ways of approaching a story. No? Parang so it's either conversation pieces or basta parang ngayon mas appreciative na ako of the writing that goes into it rather than the information that can be gleaned from it. You know what I mean? Parang ganun.
So it's more of parang witnessing, ganun ba? Or for posterity, documentation?
Oo. Kasi parang if there's something na very I was just telling Grace about it last night. Parang sort of like my way of semi-preparing for tonight. Na I used to hate the associative manner of like music criticism, meaning this sounds like such and such, and that guy plays like so and so. Pero I realize lately, though I still don't do it a lot, no, if at all, na ano rin siya, it's a form of historicizing, no. Parang it's something that's always existed, no? Parang ever since like T.S. Eliot's tradition in the individual talent, no? which recognizes the need for artistic progress, but always as a function of the tradition it seeks to improve on or break away from. Parang ganun. So parang ngayon, hindi na ako masyado mataray tungkol sa associative criticism. No? Parang I feel it has its uses. No? If done right or done sparingly maybe. And ano rin siya, research din siya. Yung parang, at saka ano siya, recognition siya of no one's entirely original, parang ganun. So parang, I guess the music critics' job in this specific thing that I'm talking about is to map that history. No, parang to para kaming shelf stackers, no. Parang, ay hindi yan diyan na lang hindi yan dyan.
Parang yung anthropologists na alam niyo yung mga links. Ito yung, 'di ba parang bago nag-evolve ng ganito. Ito siya.
Oh, in a manner of speaking, parang very, although ang taas niyang antro na. Parang I wouldn't dare associate, no.
Pero kanya-kanyang branding lang yan. Ganun.
Kanya-kanyang branding.
Ngayon naman kahit ano na pwede kong sabihin sa sarili mo, Diyos ko. Basta kaya mo siyang panindigan. Naks. Okay, we have one question from... Wait, before the question from Paul, I will bring up the relevant comment from Paul. Okay. So, eto, one question from Paul Katyang. What are the usual pitfalls or crutches of local music writing that you've seen recently? Ay, mataray! Parang gusto niya mag-name names.
Well, crutches. Well, I opened this conversation by saying, well, one of the first few things I said was writing of any sort is a writing activity or exercise is first and foremost a thinking exercise. And I feel there's a very rote quality in a lot of music writing, no, including mine and my friends. Tapos alam ko maraming factors doon. Tapos parang it's not the most important thing in the world, so maybe we should be more forgiving, etc. Pero siyempre yung mga pressures and deadlines, etc. Pero ang pitfalls ay yung crutches lagi yan. Crutches will always exist, Paul, in whatever shape or form. Parang to some it's like hackneyed expressions, no, they can't get rid of. They just sound like music to their ears, no? So they keep saying certain things, no, to describe certain elements of music, for instance, that they're discussing. In fact, there's a good book written by a writer that I like. I don't have it yet, but I've seen excerpts of it. Medyo mocking book siya, yung Rock Crit, ano yun? Rock Crit Law 101 ata. Yung it's written by the biographer of Nirvana. Tawag dito. Tapos doon sa librong yun, minamock niya lang yung mga usual phrases, adjectives na ginagamit to describe certain things, no? So how certain like hardcore bands are angular in their guitar playing, or how if a singer gets all dramatic, it's parang he's swooning, he's a swooner, just para lang merong synonyms pa, hindi mo ulit-ulitin yung thing. Ganun, parang tinay kong order sa Amazon pero parang hindi ko tinuloy yung order dahil magka-lockdown nga. Hindi ko alam what's the Amazon situation with shipping and stuff. Pero anyway, parang I've seen excerpts of that book, Rock Crit Law 101. I may be misremembering the title. Um, but yun nga, parang it talks about hackneyed expressions. Um, yun iba naman yun, parang that's just lazy. That's just laziness, no? Parang I don't mind like favorite words and favorite turns of phrase, no? Pero if it has to do with the way you're thinking, yung very formulaic na rin yung pag-attack mo ng reviewing, then you're maybe doing something wrong, no? Just to get out of a rut. Pero ako, I sort of enjoy that rut, eh. Parang, I get really stupid sometimes, eh. Parang, I spent 3 days on a 500-word thing, eh. I mean, it's stupid. Pero after that, I feel accomplished, eh. Parang, I'm a self-respecting guy. Parang, di ba, I didn't knock this off in 30 minutes, but I paid attention. I paid attention. Parang, I get really stupid about things like that just because the one other metaphor I keep reverting back when ito very very few times lang naman nangyari to, pero the occasional young writer who's approached me for music writing advice, konti lang yan bilang sa daliri, pero ang recurring metaphor na ginagamit ko ay landscaping.
Okay.
Sabi ko hindi, latag mo muna. Tapos ayun, mag-ano ka lang, chop ka ron, ganyan, balance it out, symmetry, balance, touch of color, etc. How harmonious the elements look. So parang as opposed, tawag dito, apart from the writing and the thinking, parang in the end, parang dinudulo ko yung presentation. It has to be something that's attractive enough to be consumed. Parang ganun. Not for everyone, of course, no. Parang you're always thinking of a specific readership, no. Which is one thing I'm practicing lately because my newest writing gig hindi naman requires. Parang I have to, basically there's a style Bible, ganun. Parang it's not a strict style Bible. I wasn't given a file or anything like that. Pero because it's a new client, so to speak, parang parang I want to play within their rules, no, while retaining my identity, of course. So now I'm writing in more clipped sentences. I'm writing in a more magazine friendly way, ganun. Kasi always sila, the new publication I'm writing for is always has their eye on like transposing this to print, no? So parang, and they're very, they've always had good writers, pero there's a certain flavor. Parang it's hard to explain. Parang it's just like anything else. Basta merong may style. Nasagot ko ba si Paul? Yun,
Yeah.
yung crutches thing.
Yes.
Yeah, we all, so to answer Paul, or to reiterate, parang we all have those, Paul. I'm sure, like, grabe, I can imagine food writing. Parang how many ways can you describe, di ba, the sensation of, I don't know, like, di ba, parang pustahan tayo, mag-Google ka ng articles on Xiaolongbao, for instance, no? Parang yung first tikim ng food writer na yun, ay pustahan tayo sa burst of flavor na yan. Yung ganun, no? So I'm sure may mga expected phrases and hackneyed expressions and whatnot, no? Pero minsan kasi yung mga ganun may uses talaga yun. Parang it's a matter of you say what you mean and you mean what you say. Excuse me.
Okay, so we have, actually sobrang overtime na tayo, okay lang ba? So before
Okay lang.
before we close, one question, siguro ito curious din yung mga ibang tao. Sabi ni Aldrin, bakit daw ganun yung mga walang kwentang kanta at yung walang sense pa yung hit? So, pakipaliwanag.
Like yung bawal lumabas ni Kim Chu. Hi Aldrin. Kaklase ko nung high school to si Aldrin. Ah, wala nang kinalaman ng music critics dyan, Pards. Parang it's one of those things na very immediate.
Mm.
Aldrin is a doctor from the US.
Mm.
So hi, I don't know what time is it where you are. I hope you're not voting for Trump. Anyway. joke lang. Ang tawag dito. Oh, so may mga ganun parang in fact parang very it's a very thankless and useless like line of writing Parang you might as well write fiction. You might as well write bad fiction. Parang the way it's the way it's so demanding of your time and involvement, and the way it's not really rewarding at all, no? Parang yun kasi nga nangyayari yan yung mga ganyang bagay. we don't have a hold over those things, no?
Yeah.
Parang it's
I
just
mean,
like
it depends on the context, diba?
oo naman.
Parang timely kasi niya Parang, pero
Oh,
wala siyang staying power.
not at all daw, not at all saan. Sa Trump daw yan.
Oo, yata. May
May joke
disclaimer.
lang
Mabuti na daw malinaw.
Then I respect my friends' political leanings. That's what I say in public anyway. Joke lang. So, parang, but just like anything else that's worth doing, parang it can be difficult and it can be like talking in a vacuum. So, that's okay.
So, before we close, ano bang tatanong ko sa'yo? Iniisip ko kasi kung tatanong ko sa'yo ano yung magandang piece of music writing that you can recommend us to read, or ito na lang, mas controversial. So, ano sa tingin mo yung, hindi, tama. Ano yung, for you, pinakamagandang piece of music writing that you'd like us to read na local?
Na local. Oh, wow.
Pwede rin yung sinulat mo, okay lang.
Nye? Natotoo. Nako, well, I'll have to get back to you on that. Pero, if you can, oh shucks, medyo unexpectedly na emotional.
Sorry, sir.
But if you can look up, if they're still alive, no? I mean the articles online, if you can look up anything by Luis Katigbak, no? Which is one of my earliest patrons. The late, great fictionist and essayist Luis Katigbak. Parang, he's actually, I got my very first music writing gig from him actually in 1999 for a website called Leg Manila. Or at least he was responsible for the hookup. Yun, that's parang in the succeeding years, although we won't end up in the same like staff, no, because I'm always basta medyo iwas akong mag work full time in print, pero wherever he went he always let me tag along, no, like a little brother. So parang Luis is a great mix of self-effacing and funny and insightful, and the sort of music knowledge he has, parang I'd give anything to have that. Ibig sabihin, parang I'd be willing to be stripped of all these hang-ups of like technical hang-ups just because I fucking play guitar or write music or record in a studio on occasion. Ang daming hang-ups nun yung parang it's an entire like universe of hang-ups with like, oh shit, parang I should touch about this because no self-respecting recording musician would let this pass unnoticed, no? So yung mga hang-ups na ganun, parang si Luis wala nun, no? I haven't, parang I haven't even heard him sing. I don't remember hearing him singing or whatever. Pero yung music knowledge niya is one of being a guy who listens to a lot of shit and thinks a lot about all of that shit. So parang that's my tribe right there.
Mm.
That's my tribe right there. Parang dudes who overthink songs, no? Parang more so than their actual creators. So that's my tribe right there, si Luis. No? So,
Mm.
I'd give anything to parang undo all this musician hang up, uh, these musician hang-ups, no? Parang to have a fresher take on things, the way Luis always seemed to have, no? Parang almost like a magic trick, no? So anything by Luis, parang his short blogs, kung buhay pa yung Songs in the City ata yun.
Mm.
Blogspot pa yung host, ganyan.
Mm.
Yeah. And um which is no disservice of course to parang my present company. Para I single out Luis because he's no longer around and he's a legend, no? So habang kaya nyo pang may natitira-tira pa dyan sa interwebs, parang i-copy paste nyo na, i-screenshot nyo na.
Yeah.
It's a real treasure.
And his books are on Amazon anyway. So
Yeah, but none of them are on
I'm
music.
music. Oo.
In fact, when he was writing a blurb for my book, parang may bittersweet kami exchange na parang, wow man, you actually did it. Parang
Mm.
I wanted to do one. Sabi ko, shit, no, dapat ikaw talaga yung una dyan. Sabi ko, not me. Parang, syempre, dapat una yung guro, di ba?
Mm.
Pero knowing him, parang it's probably a perfectionist thing, no, more than like a lack of drive or whatever to do it. Kasi
Mm.
mag-anthologize, magsa-self-anthologize ka lang naman. Parang my first music book anyway was just a collection of previously published
Mm.
things. And he wanted to do something like that as well. And he was, he was happy to help me out by putting his name on it. But also, parang alam ko lang na meron akong nakalampag sa kanya na, oh shit, I should do that. I should do that soon. Ganun.
That's also di ba, a worthwhile project. Like, getting together all of his music writing. Kasi kung sinasabi mo na nasa blogspot lang siya.
Well, di ko alam kung are those things up forever. Di ko alam kung ano yung mga hosting limitations na. Pero that's not ever.
Blogspot is probably still around.
Yeah. Pero anyway, his best stuff are on the magazines, which is a good thing because especially if those editors are still associated with those magazines or at least have contact, no? Parang we'll always have.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not the first person who's thought of it, no? Parang I'm sure a lot of our friends are thinking of sobrang we can use some Luis Magic and Luis Sunshine right now.
Yep. And on that note, thank you very much for coming to Meet the Fresh.
Salamat.
Thank you to everyone who watched, sa nag-comment, salamat. If you like the show, eto na tayo. If you like the show, please like Meet the Fresh page on Facebook or subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tapos pa-share na lang tong episode if you liked it. Even if you didn't like it, it's okay. I won't take it against you. Basta share nyo na lang. Thank you everyone and good night. Thanks, Aldus.
Salamat. Good night.
Thanks. Bye-bye.